Things were very different in the past, and not always for the better. These things are totally creepy, but they were perfectly normal 100 years ago. Anyone who's ever watched a horror movie knows there's only one thing you're supposed to do with leeches: scream and run away.
Leeches! Oh my God!
Which is why it's wild that leeches were commonly used by doctors throughout history. Starting in Egypt some 3,000 years ago, bloodletting has been a medical procedure for ancient cultures all over the world. Basically, that meant pulling blood out of a person to help get rid of a disease. Leeches were often used for a variety of reasons, but mainly because they were extremely convenient, since they're, biologically designed to get blood out of people. While originally used by ancient cultures, leeching became an increasingly popular prescription for a number of ailments and conditions. Everything from fevers to toothaches was treated with leeches. Although leeching had effectively disappeared by the middle of the 20th century, it remained a folk remedy in some places in the States, and has actually experienced a resurgence in certain legitimate medical circles in the 21st century. It's probably time to put a stop to the whole leech thing. For most of history, a newborn baby was generally viewed as one part future labor and one part old age insurance policy. Children were expected to work from a very young age, helping around the farm, house, or business. By the turn of the 20th century, children were employed in a huge variety of industries and trades. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, children worked on everything from traditional farming to more dangerous jobs like mining and hauling coal. In cities and towns of all sizes, children were employed by mills and factories, making everything from glass products to textiles, while big cities had legions of children buzzing around as drivers, cleaners, newsies, and more. Child labor was integral to just about every level of the U.S. economy, but the children themselves usually didn't get to enjoy their wages. Generally speaking, kids were an extra money-earning appendage of their parents. On January 17, 1920, the sale of alcoholic beverages in the United States was made illegal. Banning the production and sale of alcohol didn't diminish the desire, so naturally a market emerged to supply it. And since alcohol was now a more profitable substance, bootleggers and mafia bosses who sold it had lots of money to bribe police officers, politicians, and judges. Homemade booze, sometimes referred to as bathtub gin, killed 4 times as many people during Prohibition than alcohol did prior to the banishment. By 1926, these deaths were less accidental and more deliberate. Since much of the homemade liquor was distilled using industrial alcohols, the feds increased the amount of methanol, a deadly poison required to make these industrial alcohols. Famed humorist Will Rogers quipped that, quote, "Governments used to murder by the bullet only. Now it's by the court."
None of this is legit.
Not once they get through with it.
The institution of marriage has evolved over the centuries, and in fact, traditional marriage is actually a very recent idea, as polygamy was the norm for most cultures for most of history. Throughout the ages, child marriage was also common. The age of consent in some places was basically whatever dad said. For most cultures, up until the last few centuries, marriages frequently involved very young brides or grooms, and their unions were arranged by their parents. That has only comparatively recently begun to change, although there has been hiccups in this historical trend. The Centers for Disease Control calculated that about 6% of American women marry by the age of 18 today, while U.S. Census records reveal that in 1920, almost 12% of all American girls between 15 and 19 were married. Yeesh. The Black Death hit the 14th century so hard that 1/3 of Europe died from it. Bubonic plague, however, wasn't just a problem for Europeans hundreds of years ago. There were over 1,000 cases in the U.S. during the 20th century. Bubonic plague is primarily transmitted by flea bites, specifically from fleas carried by rats. Rats that came to the U.S. aboard steamships bound for San Francisco in 1900. That city's Chinatown hosted the very first U.S. outbreak of the plague, and it scared California's leaders so much that they conspired to hide it from the rest of the country. San Francisco's mayor and the state governor, along with their willing accomplices and California's media and business titans, actually secured the collaboration of the Surgeon General of the United States in covering up the plague outbreak. Tragically, at least 172 people died before the outbreak ended. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more messed up history videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.